Today on the TBN Israel podcast, bomb or agreement? That is a big discussion. It's been hotter, it's been more volatile, it's been more angry. The rhetoric has been worse than I can remember. I
don't know if it can get any worse with what we've heard from the Ayatollah and the supreme leader
Yair.
of Iran. You think that it can be a lot more worse?
It can always get worse.
Yeah.
Let's summarize where we're at. We keep talking about Iran, and it has been getting more and more extreme for weeks now.
Mm-hmm.
We just ended week 5 of the direct discussions between the U.S. and the Iranians.
In Oman, yes. The last meeting was in Oman. They were also in Paris. They were in multiple places.
It's like a never-ending vacation season for them. And at the end of this, every week the exact same thing happens, and it just keeps getting worse. The American team comes out and says, we're winning, we're heading towards an agreement, we're almost there.
Iran will never have a nuclear weapon. We will not allow any kind of enrichment level to be made inside the Islamic Republic of Iran. And that's our goal. That's it.
Yeah, and the Iranians don't lose a heartbeat. They don't skip a beat. And immediately, within hours of the American team coming out and say, we're winning, there's an agreement, the Iranians say, on our dead body, we will never relinquish our centrifuges. We will never give up on our enriched uranium. Iran will protect itself against, and here's my favorite statement, American aggression.
Yeah.
This is Iran saying against American aggression.
This is the most aggressive country in the world that is funding terrorism in Lebanon, in Syria, in Yemen, in Iraq, in other places against Israel and against the United States of America.
Yeah.
They are burning flags of Israel, of the United States, and calling Israel the small Satan and America the big Satan. Okay, so they are calling America the aggressor in this situation. They are saying that they have enough power, that their scientists are smart enough, and that their military capabilities is strong enough to withstand any kind of sanctions from the United States. But the people of Iran do not agree with that because they have shortages of electricity. And Tomer just disrupted my sentence. So please, guys, please subscribe, share, like TBN Israel YouTube channel. It helps us a lot to reach more people around the world with the truth. And talking about people, we have people here with us. So welcome, make some noise.
Let's ask the question. Have you liked, shared, and subscribed?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good.
Now we can move on. I have a question for Tomer, though.
Wait. Where are they from, Matti?
When will it be enough to ask people to subscribe? We're at 50-something%. When do we stop asking people to subscribe?
80%?
80%.
I'll settle
Of
for
the
80%.
viewers, 80%. I take that, yeah.
Yeah, we will take that.
By the way, we did a little vote with the people here that came to the studio. Who do they like more, Matti and myself? I told them to raise their hands if they like Matti, and none of them did.
Well, you didn't ask the follow-up question.
That's enough.
I'll say this, Yair. An emotionally wholesome individual doesn't ask guests in his studio to validate his personality. So I'll be praying for you, brother, to feel whole in your heart.
Yes. I just counted 0 hands for you. That's the bottom line, you know.
Anyway, so back to Iran. Look, and I need to remind people, a week and a half ago, the leading headline globally was Israel gearing up towards attack directly in Iran. Mm-hmm. And we said it was leaked by the Americans. It wasn't leaked. The U.S. administration went to the press and said, FYI, Israel's gearing up towards an attack against Iran. Let everyone in the world know, specifically the Iranians. And the Iranians took note of it. Mm-hmm. They start making threats, well, the usual stuff. We will bomb Israel. They start naming operations. It'll be something violent, something rain of fire. And they make up a new name every other day.
Very scary names, yeah.
Yeah, we're terrified here, can't you tell? and in reality...
They're a terrified AI.
Yeah, in reality, they're saying... This is Iran. These are scare tactics by Israel and the Americans. Mm-hmm. And the Americans are saying, no, these aren't scare tactics. Israel actually is planning to bomb you since the negotiations have fallen through. And I'm just saying this for the context. As we're sitting here, a week and a half ago, or just a little over that, let's say 10, 12 days ago, the Iranians say the negotiations have failed. We're going back to pre-October 7th, 2023. A week later... less than a week later, they're once again negotiating directly with the Americans, and the whole cycle repeats itself.
And this time they say it's moving forward, there is optimism, it's like they're buying time, and meanwhile, they keep enriching uranium.
Yeah.
Their facilities are still operational. It's not like somebody is pausing the work there while we are negotiating. That's their tactic, to wait and prolong the time until the United States of America will have better things or different things to be focused on.
Yeah, and typically that's worked for them very, very well.
Yes, it
They've
did.
done this for years. They commit to something, then they slowly start inching away and eating away at the agreement.
Yeah.
I said, sure, we'll give you access to our sites, but not this one. We didn't clean the carpets in this one. We don't want you to come in. And not this one. That back room over there, that's where we keep all the dirty laundry.
Exactly.
We don't want you coming in. Not there. No, Muhammad had the flu. Don't come into this room. They keep making up excuses, and inch by inch, whatever supervision existed over their programs is worn away.
Exactly.
They're trying to do exactly that. And the U.S. has done very, very wisely, I have to say. They set deadlines for this negotiation.
A few days, right?
Yeah.
Only a few days.
Well, there was a 60-day deadline that already expired close to a week ago. And President Trump...
On a tight schedule right now.
Yeah, and this is, again, people like to say about the Trump administration, they're less transparent. This is an American critique of their press secretaries. They're less transparent in what they're saying or releasing to the public. It's not really true. They're more clever and shrewd in the way they're releasing media to the public. And what they're saying here is, they said, FYI, there was a deadline given. And in that deadline, we asked Prime Minister Netanyahu to hold tight for just a couple more days.
And not to launch a
Exactly.
strike directly against Iran.
And so they're doing two things here. One, that might be a truthful statement. They might have asked him to say, give us a couple more days, because they know that there's a timeline here. There might be another reality, which is they're saying to the Iranians, beware, you'll only have a couple more days to come back to the table. And both of those options are true. And I need to say this before we really start going into the scenarios. People say, like, if there's an ultimatum and then it doesn't happen, that the ultimatum was false. But that's not true. If Israel actually is planning to attack in Iran, and Iran does fold, and they do give up, and they come back to the negotiation table, was it an empty threat? It wasn't empty.
There is something that we gained from it.
The threat worked.
Yeah.
And it's truthful. And that's where we are. We're at a place right now where there's so much stacked on the table. We're at a very, very high stakes game, more than people imagine, where there's an incredible amount of U.S. forces in this region, enough to bomb Yemen and Iran at the same time, all the way into the ground. Sure. And the Israeli Air Force has trained repeatedly and has bought the munitions and received the munitions from the Americans to the point where we could carry out the bombing missions tonight, and it would be dramatically destructive to the Iranians.
And we see international media leaking U.S. officials stating that Israel is moving the munitions and is carrying out secretive drills for an attack against the Iranian nuclear facilities. This is according to CNN reports. Do you think that's also like another leak that the U.S. is putting out there, or is it really happening?
It's more complicated than that. We live in an age where even civilian outlets have access to satellite imagery almost live, within days of when things change on the ground. So just imagine what governments actually have. It's within minutes. So if Israel knows that it's being watched, and it is being watched, and you know that people are looking for signs of you prepping for an attack, if you start moving weapons from one shed to another, knowing that they're watching you, is it a bluff or is it real?
And also, everything affects everything, because just because the talk of a potential strike and the potential resumption of additional sanctions on Iran, the oil prices went up by 2% just because of the rumors. Yeah. And that affects all of us all over the world.
Yeah. Mati, when we going to launch on Monday your episode about how we eliminate Hania in Iran, and when we work on this piece, one of the things that I catch is that the Iranian government are afraid all the time. They're afraid to be eliminated by the IDF in any second, even Khamenei.
Well, they should be afraid. For sure. We've proven that we can strike in the heart of Tehran under the most secure conditions of the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps. We were able to, our Mossad and other agents were able to place a bomb underneath the bed of the Hamas leader during the inaugural ceremony of the president of Iran. Whatever his name is, Masoud Pezeshkian. Yeah. So we can do it, and it's proven. So they should worry.
We scare they are scared. That's what I think when they launch all those threats towards
Toma,
us.
if you were sitting in Iran or in Israel, whatever country, and parked off your coast is two carrier groups of the U.S. Armed Forces, and then in an island that's, and this is important to note, just outside of the range of your ballistic missiles, Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean, is parked enough aircraft to literally bomb half your country.
Yeah.
And they're parked there, and they're saying there's a negotiation, and if you don't cooperate in this negotiation, all these plane pieces that are on the table in front of you are going to be used against you. I would be afraid.
For sure.
And the U.S. Army is the biggest, the most powerful, and the numbers of soldiers is not the important part. It's the aircraft, the ships, and the ability to operate them at a high level. It is a fighting force that doesn't exist anywhere elsewhere in the world. And because of that, the Iranians have good cause to be afraid, and they have good cause to pause on their, never-ending negotiations and try to reach an agreement. They've been playing the game, and we've talked about this scenario many times in the past, where they're trying to pull the elasticity of this negotiation.
The what?
The elasticity, like trying to
Elasticity?
gmishut.
Oh, like elastic.
Yeah, how they're trying to stretch out the negotiation to the point where it's about to rip, and at that point they say, okay, we're coming back. And they're playing this game of always stretching the patience of everyone they're negotiating with, and they do it very carefully. And then one person will come out, they'll say, we agree.
Yeah.
Someone else will yell, no, we don't. And then they'll see that, wait, the response is worse than we expected. Let's retract that and now say that we are, that we are playing along. All this to stretch it out to the point where they get the best deal that they can possibly get. And for them, and we need to say this, the stakes couldn't possibly be higher for the Iranian government.
No, they're in a very, very tough situation. Internally, they are stressing. So I think that most of this rhetoric is actually pointed towards the Iranian people and towards the opposition of the Islamic Revolutionary Guards and the regime in Iran. Because if they project power allegedly towards the outside world, then their internal rivals see it and think, okay, maybe they're not as weak as we thought because they can stand up to the United States, they can stand up to Israel, so maybe now is not a good time to attack them internally and to rise up.
Yeah.
So I think that in general in the Middle East, that's something that we see on and on again.
Yeah, but the issue is with the Iranians, they aspire to a lot more than just being stable internally.
Yeah.
The whole agenda, and this is not exclusive to them, any totalitarian regime always wants a foreign policy that is violent and argumentative, or let's call it aggressive. And the reason for that is because the minute you seize that type of policy, you have to talk about internal issues.
Yeah.
And when you're a dictatorship, your internal issues are always terrible. There's always problems with civil rights. There's always problems with finances. There's always problems with corruption. And Iran is no exception to that. It's even worse because they've had 45 years of corruption and broken system in the country, where now if the civilians stop and look at what's going on internally and not just focus on the external threat, the government will experience a huge wave of demonstrations. And, this is not a spoiler, they've already been happening. And when they look at this, they say, like, look, we can't give up on our external aspirations. The moment we give up on our external aspirations, we're on a problem internally. They have another problem. The minute they give in to pressure from the U.S. and Israel, they lose face internally, which is the same thing essentially as losing on a military level, because it weakens their perception of power in the eyes of their population. And there's one more thing. Iran has made itself the sworn enemy of every one of its neighbors. And let's break this down.
Well, not for bad reasons. Meaning they deserve it. They've been a bad neighbor.
Yeah, they've justifiably.
To everybody.
They deserve it. They've been a terrible neighbor to everyone. The Saudis would love to carve up Iran and weaken it. They'd love to eliminate their ability to export oil. They'd love to weaken the IRGC. Every single oil kingdom in the Arabian Sea and the Arabian Peninsula would be very, very, very happy to see a weakened Tehran. Not only that, the Iranians themselves would be happy to see a weakened
Tehran, the regime,
The Sunni Iraqis would be happy to see a weakened Iran. Israel would be happy to see a weakened Iran. The Lebanese government would be happy to see it. And the list goes on and on and on and on. And then if you add to that non-nation players, so international companies, think about any kind of shipping company that is shipping thousands of ships full of cargo containers around the oceans of the world. They would love Iran to be weakened. So it's a long list of people that are sitting on the sidelines, waiting to see them show weakness, and then to pounce, to carve into them financially, to carve into them militarily, to chip away at their power and influence in the region. And when that happens, everyone's going to be happy.
Mati, is Hezbollah, like, now that it's almost destroyed because Israel collapsed it, does it mean that Iran has lost its military power? Do they have something else other than the Houthis?
Yeah, they have the IRGC. And
how strong? What do you know numbers of them?
Yeah. So the IRGC,
Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps.
Yeah, exactly. And what people often misunderstand about it is the reason Iran has been so effective in exporting terrorism is because it doesn't work in a linear way like most countries do. Most countries, when they go to war as a country. Iran hasn't built the type of army that goes to war as a nation. They've built a terrorism mechanism. So they've taken the operational methods of the Somali pirates and built that into their, I don't want to call it a navy, their naval forces of the IRGC. And they've taken the fighting abilities, drones, sabotage, that kind of things, and they've trained their army to fight in that way. When they put on the on switch on let's disrupt using the IRGC, they have hundreds of thousands of soldiers that have small surface vessels, that have suicide drones, that have loitering munitions in larger drones, that have soldiers that they can export to different places.
Missiles also.
Many, many missiles, all meant to stop global trade, which they can because they're sitting on some of the biggest. So they're sitting on the straits, the Hormuz Straits, which is a huge amount of the oil that's moved through the world through sea. Then through their Houthi proxies, they sit on the Bab el-Mandab Straits. The Bab el-Mandab Straits are like close to 20% of global trade.
They can affect the world if they want to, severely.
And then, exactly. So they don't have to win a war, and they don't have to reach Israel with missiles. All they need to do is disrupt naval trade, and overnight, rice, goods, oil, clothing, I mean, so many different things. Every market in the world, it goes up 10, 20, 30% like that. And that in itself is more damage than landing 10 missiles in Israel.
Well, Mati, I'm very excited because I see here that it says Mati should give Yair a gift.
Yeah, that shows you how much... shows
what gift am I getting, Mati? I'm very excited.
I have a surprise.
Dum, dum, dum. I don't have a birthday yet. It's in a few days, by the way, guys.
I have a surprise.
Make sure in the comments, let me know how old I am, if you guys have a guess.
This is a gift for you, Yair, and I have several other for our
what?
team. And thank you to Micah on our team who created this. Can the camera see this? On these socks, which Yair are now expected to wear every podcast.
I will.
We have a green. We have a purple. The directive was only colors that will embarrass you.
Show me. So look, guys. This is a pair of socks.
A pair of socks
with Mati's face and my face on them. Very, very weird. Not. You cannot buy them on our shop so far, but maybe you will in the future. But I don't know if somebody in the world wants to wear our faces with these socks. Wow!
Thank you, Micah, for helping.
Thank you very much
to make this. This Christmas came early for you this year, yeah.
Thank you. If we're talking about gifts, I also have a gift, Mati. It is yours, but I brought it to you because it was in my house for many
Is there anything left
weeks
in the bottle?
now. No, it's full. It's full. This is, guys, this is Vinya. It's our sponsor for today, and they're partnering with us for a long time. Vinya is an Israeli invention. It's basically everything that's good inside grapes, concentrated into a very small pill with the natural... I don't know what it's, the grape cells that were made here in Israel. It gives you lots of energy, increases blood flow. And Mati looked a little tired today, so I decided I should give it to him so he wakes up.
I feel tired today, thank you.
And guys, if you want to get your own Vinya pills, you can go to vinyatbnisrael.com. Again, that's vinyatbnisrael.com. And by making your order, you also help us create more content because they are partnering with us. So that's how it works. And we actually believe in them. We know the scientists. We've been to the factories. and these are grapes from Israel that are genetically induced.
No.
Right?
Don't use the word
Not induced.
no, don't use the word genetically. They have a proprietary process.
Proprietary?
Okay. It means that no one else has it.
Okay, good.
Sometimes I don't know if you're just making fun of my English. Yeah.
I'm trying to learn. What do you
Anyway,
want?
we've spent a bunch of time with their scientists. I love science. This stuff was fascinating. Where they know how to multiply natural cells. So it's not genetically engineered. It's not genetically modified. It's very much non-GMO, and which is important to say. They take in a lab they take the best of what's in a grape cell. They enhance that property, but in a natural sense. And then they multiply time and time again the cells without losing the qualities. It's a very, very unique process that they've developed in-house. It costs a fortune to get to that point. And the issue is most natural occurring substances, if you multiply them in a lab, they look the same. They don't carry almost any of the properties that they had in nature. This is an exception to that rule. The science behind this is amazing. We've done a whole lot of research on it and have spent a lot of time with their scientific team. Amazing science, and it works. I'll say this in the most obvious sense. Both you and I have used this extensively, and we're healthy-ish and young-ish.
Guess how old I am, because I'm going to have a birthday in a week from now.
Younger
or
than,
2 weeks?
You're turning 39. 8.
No, 8.
8.
Yes. But let's see in the comments, what did they write? I don't know.
Just have someone bleep out what I just said.
Cool. Well, Mati, you are welcomed, by the way, for me giving it to you.
Giving me what was already mine.
What was yours? Okay, let's go back to Iran, to Israel. And I think that maybe it's a good time to have a question from one of our guests here. Do you have a question? You want to come up here and ask? Or you need a microphone. So
Here, let me give her the...
Yeah. Stay. We'll give you the microphone. Mati will get up. He needs the exercise.
The reason no hands went up is because 2 hands should have gone up, right? Okay. I just want to tell you, you sold me on Vinia. I'm 84.
Really?
And was really having some sluggish kind of feelings and whatever. And after listening to you all sell it for a few weeks, I thought, well, I'm going to try it. And it really has helped me a lot.
Cool.
So I just want to say, go guys. Really
Thank you. They will love it. The owner of the company watches us all the time, and he will really appreciate you now.
We have our cheering section in our area. So I just want to tell you how much you all mean to us personally, and we pray for you and your families all the time, and we really do appreciate the news you give us.
Thank you.
So, yes, you're welcome.
Is there a question there aside from compliments?
Is there a question? Okay, so what are the cues we might look for that we're really going to go to war against Iran? Is there any more than are out there right now, or is it just going to be more of the same?
Well, can I respond with a question?
Mm-hmm.
So you're in Israel right now, and we're having a conversation about war breaking out between Israel and Iran any moment. Do you feel safe right now?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because it hasn't broken out.
So just this morning,
No.
Speak to me.
I'm asking seriously because I
do feel safe right now.
This is the kind of exchange which shows how weird the situation is.
Yes, it is weird because my family back there is saying, "What are you doing? Here we are on the edge of this war and blah blah blah." But I felt at perfect peace for coming at this time because I guess you all emanate a lot of trust. Because you do well, that we could do well. I'm sure that's part of it. And then we are coming for a particular purpose with the Jerusalem Prayer Breakfast. We made standards of the tribes of Israel, 13 banners for Israel in each one of the tribes, and they invited us to come and bring them. So that gave us more motivation even to get those over here, to lift them in the land where the heritage of all of us comes out of Egypt, where they lifted those banners and moved out. And it was a sign of who they were, God's people, and it was a sign of what's to come, and there was a sign that He is their God and always going to be their God. And that's why we're coming and lifting it.
Well, thank you for coming, and thank you for supporting Israel.
What?
And thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
And thank you for being supportive. But to answer your question, you asked the question of are we going to know that an attack is coming? And the answer is no.
Okay.
And that's the whole point of it. If they knew it was coming, it wouldn't be a surprise for anyone.
Yeah.
And the idea is that the system or the trap is set with the U.S. forces in this region and with the Israeli Air Force and the Israeli other assets that are in the area. And one thing we can guarantee, if there is an attack on Iran, it's going to be a surprise. And not only that, I think also the nature of how the attack starts is going to be a surprise. And I'll just throw like two random ideas. It could start with targeted assassinations of the leadership of the Iranian government. And we've seen, we were just talking about this, we've seen people mysteriously explode in ways that no one was mysteriously explode in a way that no one knew how to explain at the time. Like, we talk about Ismail Haniyeh, he was blown up with a bomb. It was an explosion that was thought to be a missile that came through the window initially by the Iranians. So they might not know that. There have been very creative assassinations that have taken place in the past. So that could be a kickoff to it. It could be a cyber attack. It could be a combination of those things. It could be ballistic missiles. It doesn't have to be, 100 jets flying into Iran. But that probably would happen one way or another. And I think the whole idea that they don't know what's coming is what really scares them. And that keeps them sort of at the edge of their chair time and time again, fearing that something's going to happen where, there's that footage after Haniyeh's assassination where, who was it? Khamenei was giving the eulogy at his funeral, and he keeps looking up to the sky, looking for Israeli drones. And of course they said, no, he was just something. But clearly the guy was terrified, and that's the point. They should be afraid, and when the attack happens, we're all going to be surprised from what happens. That's expectation.
But we're ready. That's the whole point. We are ready, like the attack should come today. And that's why we can keep living our normal lives. I mean, you've been here and you feel safe. You look happy. Look like you had a great time. And I hope you will continue to have a great time. But that's the situation, because we are ready. And the IDF soldiers, many of them are part of the reserve, like Mati and myself, are spending about 2 years to even 2 months or 4 months in the Gaza Strip, in Syria, or in bases of the Israeli Air Force to make sure that our aerial defensive systems are ready and also our ground forces are ready for anything. So that's the price of keeping the normal life here. And well, thanks for coming. Thanks for praying. It's really encouraging to see you in person and gives us a lot of tailwind to keep doing what we are doing. So thank you very much. Anybody, another question?
No, I don't have another question. I've taken my time.
I'd maybe give us an idea of what your take is on Qatar. And, this we're a little concerned, frankly, as Americans. It's a big gift that was given to the president recently. And it seems like they're shielding Hamas this whole time and playing both sides of the game. So what about Qatar?
Well, in general, I think that there are no free gifts ever, especially from a country that sponsored terrorism, it sponsored Hamas, and is very strong with the Muslim Brotherhood, which is another big movement in the Middle East that caused governments to collapse and also to fund terrorism. So you should be really, really wary of what they're doing. But at the same time, I hope that the President of the United States is thinking and knows the risks in the situation and is trying to make the best out of it. Politics is very complicated. That's why I keep encouraging for people to pray for their leaders to make wise decisions. And, God used also evil regimes to do great things. Like even Xerxes, or like the Persian Empire, to bring back the Jewish people and rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. They were not a good, God-fearing empire. They were idol worshippers and doing bad things, but God used them for his grand plan in this region. So I really hope that he will do that also in this situation with Qatar or with other players in this region. But the best we can do now is really to pray for wisdom and to be wary of everything that they're doing. They're not doing it out of their kindness of heart. They have plans. They want to have influence. They want to be a power that affects the global negotiations between the East and the West, between terrorism and the modern states to be the negotiators and to be involved in rebuilding the Gaza Strip. And they want to be involved in everything because they have a lot of money and they want power. So,
yeah. And it's important to know, we did a whole segment on this topic, that Qatar punches well above its class. They're very, very effective. And again, they're not a democracy. So it's a monarchy that is vying for power in the Middle East, competing against other, let's call it, young dynasties. And each one of them is fighting for power, influence, money, a place at the table when it comes to trade, when it comes to geopolitics. So Qatar does Al Jazeera. They do that because they want to influence global media. Qatar does negotiation between other countries at war because they want to be, again, they want to be a power above their size and above their influence. Qatar supports terrorism by actions and by speech and by money. And they do that because, again, they want power and influence. And the problem is in politics, and especially in the Middle East, you always have to work with people you don't necessarily trust. And Israel and the U.S. have to maneuver the Qataris to do things that are effective for them. And then they could be used as a force for good, as Yair says. And if not, if they're left to themselves, to their own desires, their own agenda, it could be a power that is manipulating and used for a negative cause. But again, we just have to always be wary and careful and cautious about who we're negotiating, how we are, be very, very open with the world and global media about what really is happening on the ground. And hopefully that sort of over time accumulates and creates a positive effect. We have a question here in our script here that I feel like we need to answer. Mm-hmm. And the question is the Houthis. The Houthis in Yemen, 2 weeks ago, President Trump comes out in a very surprising press conference and says, we beat the Houthis.
They surrendered.
We accept their desire to surrender and for a ceasefire. They fought well. They fought bravely. They received a huge amount of hits, and they're still standing. Good for them, something along those lines. And the Houthis say, no, actually, we didn't lose. And I guess we accept a negotiation. As long as U.S. hostilities cease, we won't attack U.S. vessels. And just to break this down for people, all of that means nothing.
Yeah, because there are the number of actual U.S. vessels going there is very small.
It's minuscule.
Yeah.
So the Houthis essentially promised to do nothing, and the U.S. says we'll stop attacking the Houthis. It needs to be reminded that the U.S.
And they continue to attack Israel since this so-called surrender.
Yeah. Just this morning.
Yeah.
Look, and the Houthis received an incredible amount of attacks. I mean, the U.S. dropped on them, I don't remember the exact numbers. It was crazy amounts of munitions, time and time again. And then they keep firing missiles. Not only do they keep firing missiles, they still have an organizational spine and the ability to execute attacks. And after all of this bombing missions and all the special forces and et cetera, it wasn't a land invasion. It was more a bombing mission. After all of that, we're still at the same point where if the Houthis wanted to stop completely trade going through the Red Sea, they could do it right now. As we're sitting here, they could stop the trade. At the same time, they continue to launch missiles against Israel, and doing that actually doesn't cause much of damage to Israel. It's almost to the point, I think it was happening the other day, where people just are bored with it now, and they just sit there sort of.
But it's costing us a lot.
It costs us money to intercept it every time. And more than that, you can't possibly say anyone's won any kind of war when your enemies are launching projectiles the size of a school bus at you.
Yeah,
and
that's for sure.
There is no winning when they're launching ballistic missiles from 2,000 kilometers away at our country.
Yeah,
it's not a win.
Listen, this is very, very weird. I mean, if any country in Europe was under attack multiple times a week by missiles, let's say Paris, okay? If the Houthis would launch ballistic missiles at Paris 5 times a week, would they sit and do nothing?
Well, then I think it would be on us, Israel, to remind the French, because you were able to intercept it, you shouldn't do anything.
Yeah, right. It's not proportionate if you don't have damage, if the missiles do not explode on your land.
Yeah.
So, we cannot return fire unless the Houthi missiles will let them explode in Israel.
That would be an act of French aggression. We shouldn't do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely not do that.
You can hit them.
It would be a war crime, in fact, if you retaliated against people who are launching ballistic missiles at you.
Exactly.
We wouldn't want that.
Well, this is the reality. What you're saying is this is the reality in Gaza. This is the reality.
I mean facetious, but that's really the reality of it.
Fascist is like a skeptical.
Yeah, it's
in a very smarter way to say it.
Satirical or like
fascist.
No.
Fascist. How do you say?
Facetious.
Fascist.
Yeah.
Fascist.
It's a delicacy. And
people are laughing at me, guys. For you that are listening at me, fascist. But I'm getting better.
It's a delicacy in the Italian cuisine.
Yes. Listen, don't be shy to ask questions for stuff you don't know. That's the way. That's what I'm telling my kids. That's the way to learn. Fascist.
By the way, I teach my kids the same thing. I'm happy if I sit in a room full of 100 other people and I didn't understand, I'll raise my hand and say,
I don't know. I have a clue.
I don't know what you're talking about. 9 times out of 10, everyone in the room didn't understand.
Yeah, but they're all like.
But everyone is shy to say I didn't understand it. So good for you, Yair.
Thank you very much, Mati.
Anyway, so.
So okay, we're getting close to the end of our Rebuild Israel campaign, Mati. We've been to the north. We showed you guys the amazing new forest that was planted thanks to your donations. And we have only a few more days until this campaign ends. And we want to give a last push in rebuilding Israel. Yeah. So by donating to tbn.org/rebuild Israel, you're also helping us create more content, continue our operations here, and you are planting a tree in the north, in the south, in areas that were burnt because of Hezbollah, because of Hamas rocket fire. So we are doing something practical in the land of Israel. We are sharing the truth, and we are rebuilding and planting something that will become big, bear fruit, and give us shade in maybe 10, 20 years. It's like an amazing thing to do. While the enemies are destroying this land, stuff that were built for many generations, we are now planting something that will bear fruit for our grandkids or kids.
Yeah. Members of our team reminded us that not all the forests that were burnt intentionally, but also those forests need to be rebuilt.
Exactly.
So even if something was burnt naturally from the crazy heat waves that have happened and stuff like that, those too need to be rebuilt. And we need to remind people, Israel is a living miracle when it comes to every aspect of life here. And if you just look, and I love doing this, there's aerial photography of the land of Israel from the beginning of the British Mandate, so the early 1920s. They did a bunch of aerial surveys of the country, and the images of literally, like if you look at the pictures, and I asked you where this was, if you didn't see the ocean in the corner of the image, you would have said somewhere in Sinai or somewhere in the Negev, and then it will say, no, that's the Israel Valley. No, that's Haifa. No, that's Jaffa. Everything was barren here. It's barren to a degree that is unbelievable. And now you look at that exact same area, and everything is green. And we want that miracle to continue time and time again. It's testament of God's faithfulness. It's testament also of the hard work of the Zionist movement in this land over 140 years, 50 years at this point, in this land of terraforming the land of Israel into something that was biblically promised. And in retrospect, everyone says, well, clearly it happened. In reality, no one could have seen this coming. It's a miracle that doesn't exist elsewhere in the world, and others have tried time and time again, and here it does work. And I felt I was just watching the segment we did last week in the north.
Oh, beautiful.
I even watching that segment, even though we were there, I'm uninterested in watching things we've already filmed.
Exactly.
It was moving to see the forest and to see the green and to see the new young trees that the viewers of this channel helped plant.
The rain.
Yeah, it was very emotionally moving. It was beautiful.
Yeah,
the moment
definitely.
It started to rain. It was beautiful.
So guys, really, this is kind of the last few days of this campaign. So if you want to be part of it, go to tbn.org/rebuild Israel. Tov, Mati, I think this is all for today.
Maybe we end with predictions.
Okay.
What do you think is going to happen in the next week? Let's limit the time on this.
Okay, next week?
Yeah, so we have in the next 7 days, you have expected over the weekend yet another round, so round 6, I guess, of direct negotiations, technical conversations, Iran, U.S, Qatar, and then we have multiple more weekdays where almost anything could happen. What do you think is going to happen in that week?
So I think that Qatar and Iran, and basically Iran, will continue with their rhetoric, will not accept anything. And I hope that Israel will carry out some kind of strike. I don't know if it's going to be a cyber attack, maybe not officially by Israel, but by, unknown sources in Iran to cripple the Iranian regime. And my prayers are that the Iranian people will stand up against the Ayatollah regime that is very weak at the moment and build themselves something better, something that does not seek and invest in disruption, in terrorism, and have a future that will be good with Israel also, so we can fly and visit Tehran, like was possible in a few years ago. I mean, that would be amazing to go to meet some Iranian people in Iran. Not the Islamic Republic of Iran.
Yeah.
The
people who
democratic Iran. I don't know.
The guys who walk around the flag, not the guys who walk on the flag.
Yes, exactly. No walking on the flags anymore. That's it.
Yeah. I think we're going to see more of the same this week.
Yeah?
Yeah. More Houthi missiles. I think in several weeks, maybe 2-3 weeks, we're probably going to see some kind of an agreement or a half agreement. But I don't think it's going to happen in the next week. Mm-hmm. I think it's a little too much to take place in a week. My hope is, and this is something I think is less likely, that there's a surprise. And that the surprise is that one morning we wake up from sirens at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
And we find out that Israeli jets and Israeli missiles and Israeli explosives have leveled multiple buildings that were holding the nuclear program. That's my hope. Is it happening in the next week? I think it's not very likely.
Well, we'll see. The best thing we can do is pray.
Exactly.
And also stay tuned to what's happening. The best way you can stay tuned to what's happening is by clicking the subscribe button, sharing, following us on social media networks, Yair Pinto, Mati Shoshani. Make sure to only follow official accounts because there are many fake ones. Again, I don't speak Italian, Spanish, and any other languages basically other than Hebrew and English. So if somebody with my face and name on social media approaches you, it's a fake account.
Well, let's just say clearly,
so beware.
We never ask people for money on social media. Mm-hmm. The only place where we ask for donations or sponsorships is on the YouTube channel in a very clear language with a link. It never is, personally, we're never stuck in airports without money. And we never want people to donate to non-existing nonprofits.
Exactly.
Anyway. Yeah,
well, thank you very much. Guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for sharing the truth. Thank you for praying. And see you again next time for another TBN Israel, the podcast.
Hello, this is Mati here in Jerusalem with TBN Israel.
This is Yair Pinto from TBN Israel here in Jerusalem. TBN Israel is keeping viewers informed with Israel-focused news, culture, and what God is doing in this land.
Support